Welcome to episode 3, the Dominican Blueprint podcast, the Caribbean Agricultural Bloc. When I imagine the future of the Dominican Republic, I don't picture a small improvement or a slightly better economy. I picture a transformation, the kind that turns a nation into a regional engine. And that starts with something I call the Caribbean Agricultural Bloc. This episode is simple. I'm going to explain what it is, why it changes everything, and how a private structure, not politics, makes it real. Section 1. The seed of the idea. The first time I touched soil in Samaná, the first time I rented land, hired labor, and started cultivation with my own hands, I realized something. Dominican land is not the problem. Capacity is not the problem. Potential is not the problem. Scale is the problem. And scale is only possible with structure. What I did on a micro level, renting land, managing labor, planting, harvesting, showed me something most people never notice. The Caribbean is sitting on millions of hectares of fertile land that are not under cultivation, not abandoned, just unused, not barren, just disconnected from capital, organization, and a vision. From Cuba to Jamaica, from the Dominican Republic to Dominica, from Puerto Rico to St. Vincent, the story is the same. Fertile land, but no coordinated system. And that is where the block begins. Section 2. What the block actually is. The Caribbean Agricultural Bloc is not a political union. It's not a treaty. It's not a government alliance. It is a private, multi-island acquisition and development network built around 5 pillars. The first one is cultivation at scale. Private acquisition or leasing of fertile land across the Greater and Lesser Antilles, not thousands of acres, millions. Crops for export, for food security, for processing, for industry. Number 2, processing and manufacturing. Packing houses, dehydration plants, oil extraction facilities, juice and concentrate processing, strategically placed across the islands to create an export machine. Third pillar, marine science and blue pharma. Research stations across the region, extracting compounds from marine life for medicine, wellness, cosmetics, and agriculture. The Caribbean Sea is chemically richer than most people realize. This is untouched industry. 4, tech, hydroponics, and hurricane engineering. Export Dominican technicians, agronomists, marine scientists, hydroponic specialists to islands that lack those skills. Create a regional disaster-resistant system or systems and protected growing environments. Imagine that. Create regional disaster resistant systems and protected growing environments across the islands. Number 5, education infrastructure. This one is key. We don't wait for universities to produce graduates. We guide universities. We design the competencies. We shape the programs. We create the types of engineers, agronomists, scientists, and technicians that the bloc will need in 5, 10, 20 years. This becomes a brand new national education industry. All right? Section 3, quantifying the impact. Let's talk numbers, just enough to give people a sense of scale. Land. Across the Caribbean, there are easily 5 to 7 million hectares of fertile land left uncultivated and underutilized. If even 10% of that is acquired privately over time, that's 500,000 to 700,000 hectares under coordinated production. Let's consider the agricultural output. At optimized efficiency, we're talking about $5,000 to $12,000 per hectare in annual export value. Of course, depending on the crop and the processing. The bloc at 10% scale could generate anywhere from $4 to $8 billion annually in raw agricultural exports. And then there's processing multiplier. When you convert raw produce into oils, concentrates, powders, pharmaceuticals, juices, packaged foods, the multiplier is 3 to 12 times. That means 20 to 70 billion dollars in processed exports, almost matching the annual budget of the Dominican Republic. And it's like the second biggest island, but maybe the number one economy in the Caribbean, right? Marine pharma, tech, hydroponics. These industries can each exceed $1 to $3 billion per sector within 10 to 15 years. The total annual potential, if executed correctly, the Caribbean Agricultural Bloc could eventually generate $40 to $100 billion per year in direct and indirect economic value. Again, matching and in some cases even exceeding the top performing Caribbean nations. This isn't fantasy. It's what happens when you combine land, labor, logistics, finance, processing, education, science, and the ocean into one coordinated private system. Jobs. Just the agricultural and processing segments alone would create 600,000 to 1 million jobs across the Caribbean, again, directly and indirectly. Dominicans, Haitians, Caribbean workers across the region, diaspora returnees, professionals, farmers, technicians, scientists, drivers, divers, sailors, port workers, builders, engineers, everyone gets absorbed into the engine. This becomes a regional economic renaissance, not through politics, but through private execution. Section 4, why the Caribbean is perfect. 3 reasons. Number 1, climate diversity. Microclimates allow year-round production of dozens of crop types. Number 2, geographic advantage. The bloc sits between North America, South America, Europe, and West Africa. This becomes a logistics crossroads. Number 3, diaspora capital. Millions of Dominicans, Haitians, Jamaicans, Cubans living abroad, etc. It represents billions in potential investments, of course, if the system is credible and structured. Section 5. So what is my role? My job isn't to build an empire, it's to build the architect of one, a blueprint others can scale. The book dramatizes it. The podcast explains it. Patreon holds the deeper documents. The book dramatizes it. The podcast explains it. And Patreon holds the deeper documents. But the goal is simple. Turn the Dominican Republic into the engine of the Caribbean. And turn the Caribbean into a food, manufacturing, and marine science power. So this is episode 3. In the next one, I'll show how this vision stays private, how it avoids political stagnation, and how it aligns with global demand. If you've been listening from the beginning, you already know this isn't just talk. It's a blueprint. Follow the link in my bio for the documents, and let's move to episode 4.